From the 21st of March 1995 to the 31st, 14 captured gray wolves were released into the Yellowstone National Park. This is now widely regarded as a great move, and here's why. In 1872, President Ulysses S. Grant signed the Yellowstone National Park into existence. At this point, there were no laws preventing the hunting of the local gray wolves, so it became a hotspot for it. Given that at the time the wolves were considered undesirable predators, they were hunted to near extinction. The effects of this slaughter were felt almost immediately, with the elk and coyote populations rising significantly. This in turn caused even more problems, as the increased amount of elk began overgrazing, severely crippling the cottonwood aspen and various other flores populations. They would also spend more time on the riverbanks, which along with a decreased number of flora would cause a lot of erosion. The increased coyote population would also drastically affect the population of the pronghorn antelope, as well as the populations of hares and other small mammals. A team of scientists visiting Yellowstone between 1929 and 1933 said that, quote, "The range was in deplorable conditions when we first saw it, and its deterioration has been progressing steadily since then." With the disappearance of just one species, an entire ecosystem was cast into disarray. People across the country began to take notice, with numerous articles in the 1940s exploring the importance of wolves to their local ecosystems. A once avid predator control advocate by the name of Aldo Leopold even stated that, quote, "Probably every reasonable ecologist will agree that some wolves should lie in the larger national parks and wilderness areas, for instance Yellowstone and its adjacent national forests." With the passing of the Endangered Species Act of 1973, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service was obligated to create a plan to restore endangered species back to their habitat. And one of these species was the gray wolf. It wasn't until April 14, 1994, that a concrete selection of 5 possible choices to achieve this were announced. Of these 5 choices, the first one ended up being elected: to establish an experimental population rule and reintroduce gray wolves to Yellowstone National Park in central Idaho. They garnered a small amount of opposition, most notably that of the Farm Bureau of Idaho, arguing that the subspecies of wolf chosen for reintroduction was the wrong one, and that of the Sierra Club and National Audubon Society, which states that the wolves would not be protected enough if they left the national park. These oppositions were swiftly overcome, and in January of 1995, the initiative sprung into action. U.S. and Canadian wildlife officials caught 14 wolves from a number of packs in Canada. They were brought to Yellowstone and split into 3 acclimation pens, which promptly opened and let out all of the wolves from the 21st to the 31st of March. Yellowstone was about to enter a renaissance. Along with another batch of 17 wolves brought in January of 1996, these wolves would hunt an average of 22 elk per wolf per year. This greatly exceeded the original estimate of 12 elk per wolf annually, making the stabilization of the ecosystem even faster. 2 years in, the elk populations had dropped by 50% and were still rapidly declining. Because of this, local flora began regrowing, and the erosion of the terrain was greatly reduced. Coyote populations dropped by 39%, meaning that foxes, young deer, hares, and small rodents began growing in numbers. Beavers also benefited from this, which increased the number of dams they built. These dams provided a habitat for moose, other otters, mink, and numerous species of birds, fish, and amphibians. This effect trickled down the food web until every organism, no matter how small, was affected in some way or another. It is impossible to overstate the role that the wolves of Yellowstone play on their ecosystem, with the reintroduction drastically affecting every single organism present in the area. This single event has become a case study in the importance of every species to their habitat, and has helped scientists around the world better understand the relationships between the organisms that surround them.